blonde girl is delighted at the sight of the Dark Lord being finally defeated. She thanks Sanroku, a man currently standing on a rock in front of her, wearing nothing but boxers and a weird mask similar to his boxers. He turns towards the girl, Faria, agreeing that it was indeed a long journey and he had waited so long for this moment. The moment he is talking about is leaping forward and kicking Faria in the face, before he starts beating her to send her to hell with the Dark Lord, calling her the real menace. The screen blanks away as the end of the Chronicles of Falia appears. A young boy takes off his VR and jumps in victory, finally ending the game and avenging what Faria put her through. In a world fully adapted to technology, virtual reality games are a norm among teenagers. But like every other marketing experiment, there lie a bunch of games that don't live up to the graphics required to become popular. These trash games are despised by the majority, but there lies a tiny fraction of people obsessed with trying out trash games and finishing them as an accomplishment. One such freak is Rakuro Hizudame, who hunts trash games and then finishes them like it is some kind of competition. Rakuro wishes everyone good morning in the living room, but all there are to receive his wish are the bugs stacked around along with one butterfly that got its temporary freedom. He leaves for his school bidding farewell to his mother. As Rakuro walks through the corridor while yawning, a girl, Raya Saega, stands nervously by the end of the corridor practicing different lines to approach Rakuro with. She is about to reach out to him when a friend of Rakuro comes from behind and takes him away while chatting, unaware of the halted advances of the girl. The owner of the rock roll store, Iwamaki, is excited about the summer vacation as her business of selling video games is about to peak here. Ri enters the store and Iwamaki familiarly greets her. Noticing the not-so-discreet search for Rakuro, Iwamaki tells Ri he hasn't been to the store yet, since he must be trying to finish the trash Falia game that is a little hard to beat for whoever tries it. The issues with the game make it hard to handle it. Iwamaki is continuing the discussion when the doors open and a tired Rakuro walks in, asking for decent trash games as if they exist. Iwamaki sighed at the sudden disappearance of Mei the moment he walked in. Iwamaki expresses her surprise at how he finished the game this early, making him get all excited and explain the achievements he did, like a little kid does to an elder sister. He then shares the frustration of how pathetic the main character Faria was. He found her the real villain because of her dumb, petty, and annoying nature. She used to mess things up, kill her villagers, and create issues only to blame them on the Dark Lord. He then tells her how he used the little 3 minutes that are of the victory celebration after winning the game to beat Faria badly enough to vent out the frustration she caused him during the game. He wonders how he can find a game trashier than that for his next venture. Iwamaki suggests he go for a game that is not trash for once, and points out the poster of a popular game, Shangri-la Frontier. Rakuro buys the game and comes home to search for its popularity before testing it out. The game set a world record for the most player logins and has such a limited number of haters that they are drowned out in the sea of lovers for this game. Rakuro finally logs into the game and finds himself in a space to customize his character. He goes around the roles and statistics of the character and his gear before beginning. He chooses a twin-blade mercenaries wanderer role, and when it comes to choosing an outfit, he decides to opt for becoming a naked guy with a bird mask on his face. As the game begins, he skips the background story and finds himself in the middle of a forest. Rakuro is heavily impressed with the graphics of the game, making his body feel pretty realistic. He jumps, runs, grabs, and climbs a tree to check for what he can do. On the tree, he looks around the space and finds the place huge. He did not know that he would be sent to the middle of an unknown forest to find his way. He surfs the map and decides to head in the direction of the nearest town. While walking, Rakuro is spontaneously attacked by a goblin. He dodges the attack in time and is amused by the random appearance of a figure merely minutes after he started. Getting into combat mode, he awaits the goblin's approach to attack and uses his dodged moment to cut the goblin in half. His level goes up and he gets the axe of the goblin to himself. Rustling in the bush alarms Rakuro to see what comes after him next. He barely manages to dodge a swift attack by a Vorpal bunny. It takes him a fight to get rid of the rabbit, but he still isn't pressured or worried. The defeat of the bunny jumps him to level 4 from 2 because he did it using a technique that has not been used before. He even unlocks different skills associated with the movie. Rakuro is busy praising the game when he realizes the biggest relief is the fact that he has not received a single bug yet. Ready to enjoy the game and unlock new skills for himself, he moves along to fight whatever appears in his path. He manages to upgrade to level 12 in just a playtime of 2.5 minutes. Tired of the low-level monsters, he decides to move along from the forest and go for the town nearby, Secondale. A bridge needs to be crossed to reach the town, and before the bridge lies a giant ravenous python. He needs to beat to be able to cross it. Our weird bird face seems to have finally found his first good challenge. In a heavily armored character, Reed looks around in the city of Firstia, assuming Rakuro would be visiting that place, first unaware of the guy wandering off into the second city directly. She logs off the game, disappointed in not finding him. Rakuro is excited to face the ravenous python. He first dodges the attacks and wanders around to analyze the movements of the python. He uses his skills to avoid the python. Rakuro can see why this snake is the boss for beginners. But this guy here defeated the pathetic chronicles of Faria and thinks he can deal with this easily. His dagger breaks when it touches the thick scales of the python. Rakuro then brings out the daggers he earned from the rabbit, but before he can reach the python's face after a jump, some purple gooey stuff is thrown on his face. It turns out to be the venom of the snake that is going to affect his apes every 10 seconds. But Rakuro is not fazed at all and takes it as a challenge to kill the python and save his progress in the 4 minutes he has left. While fighting, he deduces that the only focal spot to hurt the python is its head, so he aims for that, but reaching for the head is hard. Rakuro chooses to create a weak spot by attacking the python in a single spot again and again. Running short of time, Rakuro finally gets an opening and attacks the snake's eye with his dagger. With 10 HPs left, he finally wins and upgrades to level 14. He panics upon the lack of time and rushes with all his agility towards the town to register at an inn and respawn there. In the town, a guy and a girl talk about taming an animal. The guy, Yamamoto, or Rigi, according to his game name, has a crush on the girl, Mia, and is playing the role of an advice-giving veteran. When they see Rakuro rushing towards the town, they fear it is a monster, but timely notice his player title before attacking him. Rigi figures he must need respawning, so points towards the nearest inn, guiding him to get into bed to get respawn points. Rakuro reaches the inn and cuts the formality of the receptionist since he is down to his last HP. He manages to get into bed right before he loses the point and gets relieved. Rakuro still dies and receives a penalty of temporarily losing his stats, but is relieved that his progress is saved. He thinks of making sure to thank Rigi next time he sees the guy in the game. Wandering in the town, he decides to get some exploration experience until he finally realizes he is walking there in a bird mask with no clothes on. He buys a leather suit and sticks to the mask to add a sense of curiosity whenever strangers notice him. He then goes to shop for weapons, but he does not have enough material for good weapons. The shopkeeper tells him to bring the ore, and he can make something even better than the rabbit's dagger. Rakuro then goes to a marsh ahead of Secondale and breaks the rocks in search of ore. Annoyed by a mud frog there, he marches through the mud, which has slowed down his movements to a dead speed, and reaches the rabbit he kicked to kill it. He earns the skin as a reward and then spends 3 hours to finally come up with a good number of ore. He luckily also finds a marsh core fossil that allows him to get a good quality weapon made for him. He then wanders around getting the necessary stuff and reaches back to receive his marsh dagger. As he is praising the daggers, the blacksmith tells him he can also get his weapons modified in this place. Rakuro is surprised at an NPC having a proper responsive conversation with him. The NPC also tells him to be careful around nights, as nocturnal monsters are not that ready to defeat. Rakuro tells him not to worry, as he'll be careful. Walking out of the weapons store, he enthusiastically cheers, knowing he is not going to be careful, and instead would enjoy some good action and upgrade some levels now that his penalty is also over. On the other hand, Ray is pretty surprised at the possibility of Rakuro skipping out of the first town and surviving the python to reach the second town without dying. She does not think a beginner could be this capable, but then again thinks that it is possible if the beginner is Rakuro. She takes only a single apocalyptic attack to cut the python into 2 to proceed to Secondale. While fighting a red-cap goblin, Rakuro lays out some facts that, just like the blacksmith mentioned, the day and night monsters vary in strength even though they are the same. This helped him learn some new skills, but this particular goblin he is facing is way too different than the one he witnessed in the forest. It seems hard to defeat with his perfect agility, motion, and responses to his attacks. But this is not the only issue for him currently. The worst part is that he is surrounded by a huge number of such goblins at the moment. He even thinks of running away, as dealing with a bunch of these goblins seems impossible right now, but his subconscious is surprised at this. Rakuro is not the one to ditch danger when it comes to games, so he isn't going to either. He proceeds to attack the goblins with his full might, but a sudden change makes the goblins disappear. At that moment, The guy who did not think he'd be into a god-tier game witnesses something that catches even more of his interest, if there was any margin left to attract him. Rakuro encounters a unique monster, Lycagon the Night Slayer. But what's even more concerning is not the random appearance of the monster, but the fact that back in the setup and headquarters of the game, there has been no unique monster dispatched currently.